Hello, everyone. Just getting some things in order over here. So, one moment, please.
In Western Christianity, there are three areas that I've seen weaponization very strong. That I've seen weaponization.
Perfect. Okay, so we are live and rocking. So, I was going to make this a pre-recorded video because I wanted to do a Faith Friday video on this, but then I have a different Faith Friday video coming out. So, we're just going to talk about this topic, and I've made videos about just like Christian pop culture stuff before. You guys know that I'm a PK. I grew up as a pastor's kid, still am, technically. And so I always find these kind of conversations really interesting. And there's not a whole lot that I agree with Kirk Franklin on theologically, I've got to be honest. But when he's right, he's right. And so I want to just listen to this video and give you my perspective as a PK, as someone who grew up in church, as someone who's been in different kinds of churches, and talk to you guys about kind of like my perspective on this, because he's speaking some truth here, and then there are some things where I'm like, okay, that's just not biblical. Like, you're not in the Bible on this. So let me go ahead and start playing this, and we'll get going.
In Western Christianity, there are three areas that I've seen weaponization very strongly. I believe that marriage has been weaponized in Western Christianity. Giving has been weaponized in Western Christianity. Sexuality has been weaponized.
And the crazy thing about those three things, because I agree with him on all three of those things, is when distorted, can all become sinful. Right? And I actually think sexuality and marriage are both, they're kind of one and the same. The giving piece is really ironic because it's like, are you one of those preachers who tell people to tithe because God's going to bless them if they give a certain amount of money? Meanwhile, you have a Bentley and they are living in poverty, because that's kind of the pot called the kettle black there, because it is, giving is definitely weaponized in the church. It's you're told that if you give, you're going to be promised things back. And what a lot of churches do to ensure that you feel this promise is that they'll have someone in the church then turn around and give you something as a result of your tithe, and then you think that it's God. And it's like, well, everything is God, but that was not the way that you think it is. So yes, they 100% weaponize giving. My dad is a pastor, and one thing that I always distinctly remember him saying is, do not tithe or give until you paid your bills. Because you're not going to come run to me and say that you're homeless because I told you to give you money. That's not even God's design. Like, pay your bills. If all you have left over is 10 cents, give the 10 cents. But make sure your family's going to eat. And that is like, I've never heard that in other churches. Other churches is like, keep tithing 10%. Meanwhile, your lights are not on. You don't have gas in your car. You're racking up credit card debt. And they don't care because you are paying their bills and they're getting wealthy. So yeah, they definitely weaponize giving.
It's very much that you living in sin, you need to get married, without realizing that marriage doesn't fix sin.
So I partially agree with him on this. Like, it is a sin in the Bible to be fornicating, right? Now, the real thing should be to just stop. Don't get married. Because if this was a person that you wanted to marry, or a person that you actually should have married, then you would have been got married. So don't get married. Stop. That should be the command. That should be the encouragement from the congregation, from the saints, if you will. Not, oh, you fornicate and get married. No, baby, don't. Because, okay, can I tell you? Okay. If you're with the man who's persistently, and the reason why I'm saying men, you guys, because you guys know women are the ones who are told this. If you are with a man who's persistently encouraging you to sin, he ain't the one, baby. He's not it. Go ahead and shut that down. The response should not be get married. It should be walk away. Because if he's really a Christian man, and really, then he would not be continuously falling into that with you. Y'all ain't ready for it.
You're talking.
So, Tammy and I have had to walk through deep waters because of a lot of the bad beginnings of religious dogma. That's why it is very important for people to understand the fullness of faith and to not allow the culture of Christianity to dictate what they believe God wants for them. For example, and any woman listening to this can attest in our culture. Don't be no 30, 35-year-old single Black woman and go to the family reunion.
Yes. So there is this is a particularly, he's saying culturally, and I think he means Black culture. But to be honest, this is also a Christian culture thing. So you guys know that there's like Christian, evangelical, conservative, reformed culture is also similar, where don't be 30, 35 and go to the family reunion and not get married. Now, I've told you guys this before because you guys have been on my channel. You know that I got married at 35. And there are certain women in churches who have this air of arrogance because they were married. But child, they look tired the house. They look frustrated the house. They looked worn out. And I'm like, why would I choose that? I'm not going to choose somebody who's going to tire me out and wear me out so that I can be married under 30. They look tired, they look wounded, and they would walk around with this, oh, you're not married, you must be, because the assumption is that if you're not married, you're fornicating, right? Or you're doing some, you're in sin because you're not married. And I'd be like, babe, you do not look healthy. You do not look well. You do not look happy. And yes, you're married. Yes, you one up to me because you're married, but you do not look happy. But if someone is not like, does not have enough self-esteem and does not have enough self-value and doesn't understand the scriptures, I could see how women would feel pressured into getting married. Because number one, then it's like, oh, you're a wife and you're one of us and all of that. And then you don't get asked questions. And it takes a lot. There are people, oh, where's your husband? Where's yours? Where's yours? You have to be able to be witty and you have to be able to have a thick skin. And honestly, because a lot of Black women in churches and women in general in churches have been beat down, they do not have the confidence or the wherewithal to say that. Where's your husband? Oh, God hasn't brought him to me. Where's yours? Yeah, no.
All the older women are going to do them. They're going to look at you and wonder and question you and challenge you on why you not married?
Where your man at? Where your kids at?
And furthermore, I'm so glad Cam Newton said that, because you guys, this is something that I've seen a lot of videos on this, but this is one thing that has not been talked about. There is a lot of negativity around single mothers and and Black women are single mothers. But one thing that people don't want to talk about is exactly what Cam Newton just said. Where's your husband? Where's your kids? Because there is this double standard where it's like either you need to be married or you need to have a kid. Do you see how crazy that is? You're supposed to be promoting families because the Bible does not promote single motherhood. But to ask somebody, where's your husband? And then where is your kid? Because this does happen. There is this promotion of, well, at least you have a kid. So then for some reason you're more noble. Meanwhile, you went and just fornicated and had a child outside of marriage. And I'm talking about this in a Christian context. So this is not a judgment thing. I'm trying to show you how backwards it is. So you went off and went and had a child. And now we're going to praise you for that because at least you're not single and childless. Couldn't be me. By the grace of God, could not be me. Couldn't be me. But what I've noticed is there is this pressure on women in a church to okay, well, at least if I'm a single mom, like there's this sort of like sympathy for me, and there is this sort of like respect because at least you're a mom, you're responsible. Again, the antithesis of that is if you do not have children and if you do not are not married, then you are somehow this unwily woman who just can't get it together because she can't get a man, which a lot of women, they rush into marriage with men who ain't got no business marrying them. I remember I was talking to my brother before I got married, and he, my brother is, oh, you guys have to share this video with you guys of him telling, he's getting his PhD in micropsychobiology. I don't know, some neuro, I don't know, things I can't understand. Okay, too many syllables for me. And he was like, some of these guys I know, I would never want them to marry any of my sisters because they're just not ready. Yet the church will say, go, yeah, yo, that's a good brother. He in the church. And my brother was like, no. But because of this mentality, we then funnel women to these less than ready men in the hopes that we're going to get them ready. Now, if you're younger and you guys are kind of on a similar path, I get it. But what I'm not about to be is 35 years old dating some 45-year-old man who cannot pay his own bills. And it has nothing to do with the money and everything to do with the level of responsibility and self-esteem and the maturity that it takes to be a functioning adult that everybody should have. But we don't ask that of people. We don't ask that of the men.
All that.
Like it's a prerequisite for identity and value that if you don't have a man, if you don't have kids, that something about you is broken.
And you guys, this permeates Black culture, particularly with the single motherhood. Like we see that people are opting to become single mothers. Now, do what you want with your life. But from what I understand, that's a very tough job. But there is a value placed on having children and being married, sometimes together and sometimes separately. There is this identity that is given that, oh, you're above. And you know, it's funny. I've seen married women do this a lot where they'll go, oh, you're single, as if that's an insult. Like that is so abhorrent and disgusting I've never once thought in my married life to go, oh, well, you're single, like as an insult to a woman. I've never once, I don't understand that. I am not better than someone just because I tied myself to a man. Like, I'm not. And neither are you. But this is a culture that permeates the church. Now, he's about to get into some stuff I don't agree with.
Do you understand how dysfunctional these messages are?
Yeah.
And how we super spiritualize these messages? He that findeth the wife findeth the good thing. Yeah, but Paul also said, I wish that some of you were like me. I wish some of you could be single because some of you could even be more useful in the kingdom if you were single, Paul said. Now, marriage is a good thing, but Paul said, but marriage is a necessary distraction.
Okay. I don't like how he phrased that. And the reason is because one thing that he's not mentioning is the fact that Paul was a eunuch. So he wasn't philandering in the church, right? Because that you get a lot of that too with the video. There's a philandering that's happening because it's okay to be single. So I'm not with that. I'm not with that. And usually this is directed towards men. I'm not with him saying that because it doesn't quite encapsulate the truth, which is that most people are going to be better off in marriage if they are with a healthy partner. The problem is that there's not a lot of healthy people going around. There's not a lot of healthy people. So yes, I think there's a time and place to be single. And I think that we have to value that time and place to be single, because there's a lot of things. I was just reflecting on this like recently, how much time I had to read my Bible and journal before I got married. Like that, there is a value in being able to do that. There's also value in being sanctified in a marriage, but the problem is that we don't frame it that way. And he's not telling the complete story.
Yeah. Yes. Do you know that there are some people, I have many friends that were in ministry at church, and the church has told them, if you're going to be in ministry, you can't be single. We're not going to let you work with the youth ministry if you're single. You can't do this if you're single. And so what people do, they quickly get married, thinking that they're fulfilling God's will for their lives, but they are fulfilling man's dogma.
Okay, hold on now, because we got to be honest, right? So the scripture does say that if you're going to lead a flock, you should be able to lead a family. It does say that. It does. So we can't act like there are not prerequisites for marriage for pastors or leaders. There are. Now, certain areas in ministry, you don't have to be married, but specifically when it comes to leading people, the preference is that you can lead in your marriage and you can lead your family. That is how the Bible describes and, how it outlines the call for pastor. And what are the prerequisites for that? So he's not completely right on this part. There are certain offices in the church that you need that you're fulfilling that do require you to be married. You should be married. And I think not only like on a practical level, but just how are you going to lead people like a whole church with children and wives if you've never experienced that? Like I would have a hard time taking advice from someone who's never had children on my children, unless they have an extensive history working with children. And I have to say that because people do ask me for advice on children because I've been a teacher for 12 years. So, even though I don't have any right now, but I'm saying as a flock leader, how are you going to then advise and counsel and lead on a topic that you've never experienced? So he's not right here, which is why I have to, and I said, I don't agree with everything. This is one of them. But what he is right about is the fact that people will then go out and rush to be married just to say that they got married so they can fulfill that office. Also wrong. And he's right that that's dogma from politics, from the church, from Christian culture.
You can be single and be used by God.
This is 100% true. And I think more people need to hear this. You can be single and be used by God. A lot of men are told this, but women are told that their usefulness to God is only valuable as a mother and a wife, which puts women in a predicament where they feel like they have to get married, where they feel like they can't do anything, but nothing that they do, even like ministry wise, is useful until they're a mother or a wife. They're walking around with this big hole, this big deficit, foolishness, bunch of foolishness.
You can be single and have purpose. Being married is not a prerequisite for God's hand on your life. It is not, but we've weaponized it. And then crucify people. Where my camera at?
Right there.
And then crucify people when those same marriages
fail.
Bingo. Oh, well, stay with him, sister. Stay. Meanwhile, he's a whole drug addict because you didn't take the time to get to know him, or because he's been in church for a year and he's a whole narcissist. And nobody knew that. And now you're up under narcissistic abuse and you want to leave. And stay with him, sis. Stay with him, sis. Meanwhile, he's out again, philandering, gallivanting about these streets. And oh no, but he's a good man, Savannah. You guys, I have peeped it because I just told y'all I've been in churches. I have peeped it. I have peeped it. People don't think I see it. I have peeped it. And I've seen it. And he's exactly right about this. A rush into a marriage with some random guy in the church because he's in the church. Oh, let's put people together who ain't got no business being together, not even compatible. They get married and he's stepping out. He's, got some severe emotional issues. He bipolar, a drug addict, recovering against it. No. Nope. Okay, so he's done. So those are my thoughts on Kirk Franklin's little diatribe. He's 100% correct. And I think we see a lot of young women falling into the trap of, especially in the church, they're falling into the trap of just wanting to get married quickly. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to get married. I think we should not demonize that. And I feel like maybe he was borderline doing that. We should not demonize that. We should be encouraging women to learn how to select healthy, godly men and to look for that instead of just an immediate person that they can get married to. There have been several people who have come across my timeline now in the last couple of years who have, quickly gotten married and did not look for the traits that they should have looked for, and were just in a rush to get married, and they ended up ending those marriages because they were in harm's way. They were in harm's way. And so we have to be very careful about what message we send out to young women particularly, and to the church at large. And I think one thing that no one else has talked about either is that there are men who know that this desperation exists. And because they know this desperation exists, they just walk into a church and go, oh, there's a bunch of desperate women in here dying to get married. I'm going to come up off of one of these women. And that's what happens. So anyway, you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this bonus video. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.